Hey guys, in this episode, I'm going to show you how to grow more food in less space using hanging containers to grow sweet potatoes, and harvesting it is as simple as just dumping it out. So one reason why you should use containers instead of sacks is because you can actually hang it somewhere and it takes up less space. Another reason is it holds its shape better. So when I planted it in sacks, I noticed it all kind of falls apart. The sacks end up breaking when I try to pick it up. You can see it here. This is where I planted my sweet potato. And I planted them in sacks thinking that it would grow well. The problem is it holds too much water. It actually rots the sweet potatoes. And I can't actually pick it up and move it away because the sacks start to break down. Unlike when you use the container, it holds its structure. It doesn't fall apart, and you can move it around as you want. So let me show you what I mean here. It just makes like a whole mess of things that I can't keep up with. It takes up so much space here. I'm not expecting any actual sweet potatoes because it's like soggy and it's not uniform shape. So the container is much better because it holds structure. It doesn't fall apart. And the fact that I can hang it means it's not taking up space on the ground. And it has good drainage. Unlike the sacks, it gets sogged up. It doesn't grow well. And I put these little drainage holes at the bottom to allow the water to drain. But even that's not good enough. You really have to prepare your soil to make it better drainage. So what you want to do is use a equal amount of soil and equal parts of compost. So this is the humus that I collected from my compost pile. And about 10% of fine sand. So this is like leftover from when we were building our house for our cement. We didn't actually, I mean, we paid for it, but we're not like spending extra for this project. So all I'm going to do is mix in my compost and my fine sand. And what this is going to do is help with the drainage so that the tubers of the sweet potato can really grow good. So the soil has microbes like bacteria, fungi, and insects. The compost is what gives it that well draining structure, allows the water to really go out. It also has a ton of microbes and a ton of nutrients, especially carbon. And sweet potatoes need a lot of carbon to grow really big. The sand is what makes it more draining. So once you mix all this together, you have a well draining, nutrient rich, microbial rich soil that is perfect for growing sweet potatoes. So what you're left with is a nutrient rich, well draining garden soil that's perfect for growing sweet potatoes. You really should use fine sand because that's what helps it to drain. If you don't, you're gonna be left with like a lot of issues in your container. If you don't have fine sand, you could substitute it with like dry leaves, but even still, you can still run into like rotting issues. My advice is definitely add fine sand. So I'm gonna fill up these containers. And the idea is I'm not wasting any space in my garden whatsoever. It's just taking up 1 foot of space on the top of my gate. So I still have space below to grow my water spinach. So I'm basically growing 2 crops in the same space. And it's really important that you do cover this because when the sun gets inside, it can cause a lot of problems, especially with the roots. The roots don't like to be exposed to light. And sweet potatoes is a root. It's a big tuber root. So you need to cover it. The insulation also serves to protect the soil from heat as well as keep the heat inside when it's cold at night. You do not have to use insulation. We used it because we have a lot of extra from when we built our house about a year ago. What you can do instead is just paint it white because the white color helps to reflect light. You don't have the insulation with it, but it's still better than keeping it clear. And what's going to end up happening, I showed you the drainage holes earlier. as the roots grow down, it'll actually clog these holes. The roots will actually clog it. When that happens, you actually want to open this lid. You want to open it like that so that it can drain better. So sweet potatoes don't grow the same way as regular white potatoes, where you put a potato and then it multiplies into more. Sweet potato is a totally different family. This is actually a morning glory family. And the way how you propagate sweet potatoes is actually from the cutting. So what you can do to get cuttings is get a sweet potato and put it in the ground and then let the vines grow. It might take about 2 months for the vines to grow. And then it shoots out runners. You want to grab the tip of the runner. So this was the tip here, and remove the very tip because they're going to keep growing. So remove the very tip and then have at least 5 nodes on your cuttings. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where I cut it was just beneath the node here because that's where it makes it easier for roots to go out. But every single node here can produce roots and leaves and new runners. The cool thing about sweet potato is very beginner friendly. This is the right way to plant it. If I didn't know better and I planted it upside down, it'll still grow. That's the cool thing about sweet potato. The best way to plant it is actually at a 45-degree angle like this. Instead of straight up and down, you can plant like this. It just grows better like this. And I'm going to plant it this way so that the leaves would fall down here. I don't want the leaves to go to the other lot here. I also don't want it to touch the metal because it gets very hot during the day and it can burn the leaves. So I want the leaves to fall down this way. So I'm going to plant at a 45-degree angle with the top here and then the bottom on the inside. And this is already, I can already tell this is a very well draining mix already. Just perfect. I'm planting it in at an angle, 45-degree angle. And I have 2 nodes exposed. These nodes will shoot more leaves and new runners. So I only planted 1 because it needs a lot of space to grow. If you have a big container, you could put multiple. This is only a 10-liter container. So that's the thing, is it needs more space. That's why people think sacks are great. But as I just showed you, it's not great. So there's 3 nodes underground. Each node has potential to grow into a tuber. Because there's 3, I can potentially grow 3 tubers that is all connected to the node. It might only grow 1, it might only grow 2, and it may grow 3. If it grows only 1, it'll probably be much bigger because all the nutrients or energy are going to that 1. If it does grow 2, they'll be a little bit smaller because you got the nutrients being split into 2. If all 3 grow in the sweet potatoes, you're going to get a little bit smaller. So even if you only get 1, you still get the same yield. So don't worry too much if you don't get 3. The way how you really get the most sweet potato, the highest yield, is having a very nutrient rich soil. First of all, this is very high in carbon because I use my compost. All this brown stuff here is basically pure carbon, but a slow release. So over time, this is slowly releasing and being absorbed to make the biggest tubers possible. The second thing is you need a lot of sugar. The way how the plant makes sugar is it gets energy from the sun and puts the sugar into the roots. So you need to have a lot of leaves coming down, getting sunlight all day long. So these are going to droop down here. I don't want it to droop all the way down to the ground because it'll make new roots here. And then those roots would actually make tubers as well. And I don't want to put tubers here. I want all my tubers to be here. So when it's time to harvest, I can just simply dump it out instead of trying to dig it out. If there was a tuber to end up down here, it's like invasive at this point. You can't get rid of it. So I'm being very careful when these do fall down to not let it get in contact with soil. So in about 2 months, you're going to have a lot of leaves growing down. And about that 2-month mark, it's going to actually start making tubers. So first it makes its leaves, then it goes into a new stage of making tubers. So to really support that early growth where it starts growing leaves, a lot of leaves, is you want to mulch around with freshly cut green leaves, freshly cut green grasses, or even weeds. What this does is it breaks down quickly and provides it with nitrogen. The nitrogen is what supports leaf growth. And you want to do this for about 2 months. Do it every single week for about 2 months. Just keep adding more green material around. This is going to protect the soil from getting dried out from the sun. It'll break down and feed the microbes. And it'll also just provide a lot of nitrogen to the plant so they can get that early growth of leaves. So what's going to happen is, the runners are going to come out and just kind of fall down. And you're going to want to remove the tips, each runner. That helps the plant to really redirect energy and nutrients back into the tubers. And it helps them make this shift. So it naturally makes a shift on its own where it says, okay, after 2 months of growing, it naturally shifts into making tubers, but it doesn't make the shift completely. It still is like a little bit growing leaves, a little bit growing tubers. So by cutting the tips off, that really helps it to focus all of its energy and nutrients into making tubers. Me personally, what I'm planning on doing is actually removing about 5 nodes, same like this cutting, and then make more containers to go all around the whole gate so that we can grow tubers like endlessly. So every 2 months, you make this harvest, you plant more. So each harvest will be every single 2 months, you get a new harvest. That way we have endless sweet potatoes all year round. By doing that though, by removing 5 nodes, it's a lot of leaves that's being taken off as well. You would get slightly less yield by doing that, but in exchange, you get sweet potatoes all year round. So some people would say that the sweet potatoes are ready and after 4 months of planting. Technically, you can harvest at 4 months, but you're going to have a smaller yield. If you wait 5 months, you'll get twice as much yield. They'll be a little bit less tender, but you would get twice as much food. And if you wait an additional month, wait at 6 months, you'll have even another double than the 5 months. So you'll get the most sweet potatoes possible if you wait 6 months. They'll be a little bit less tender, but if you boil it, mash it, make a cake, you can't tell the difference. This setup is not about growing the most tender sweet potatoes. It's all about growing the most food possible in the least amount of space. So down here, I got my water spinach. I'm growing it out this way and taking up no additional space. I'm also growing very high yield sweet potatoes. I didn't spend any money on this whatsoever. We reused the plastic that we had. We reused our tie wire that we had left over from a previous project, and we reused our insulation that we had left over after we built our house. In this series, I'm going to show you how to grow a lot of food by making things thrive instead of just survive, by giving everything its optimal conditions. So this has its optimal conditions. My water spinach below, I'm also giving it its optimal conditions as well. Normally this doesn't grow in highland mountainous areas like Bukidnon. This usually grows in like a lowland area where it's swampy and all the water collects. Yet this is thriving. In fact, this actually is doubling in size. Like every 3 days, it's twice as big. So this is actually can take over my whole yard if I don't control it. This provides so much food. And in the next episode, I'm going to show you how to do all of your food, make it thrive instead of just survive. So you do get more food on your homestead. Thank you for watching Garden Logic TV, where we grow smarter every day. I'll see you in the next episode.